Hi, my name is Mark. If you watch my videos, you've probably noticed that many times, instead of me teaching you like 3 notes per string scales and talking about the gauge system and stuff like that, I usually tell you, okay, just take your pentatonic scale and tune it around a little bit. Either use it to play over diatonic changes, even though the pentatonic scale isn't really a diatonic scale. You can check out that video right there. And all the other ones I'll probably mention during this video. Again, the playlist will be right there. And it's not like I think you shouldn't learn all of those 3 note per string scales, nor the gauge system and stuff like that, but at least I think that since the minor pentatonic position is so comfortable, I think it's probably because you can just bar the first finger on one fret. By the way, I'm tuned a half step down. But you don't really need to be tuned that way. I'm just going to show you a concept and then you can apply it on your own. It's not like I'm going to teach you a very specific lick or something. But as I was saying, this is sort of a series of videos. After you learn your pentatonic scale and learns to blues the licks, you can start to incorporate like the flat 5, giving you the commonly known and played blues scale. Which not only sounds cool, but is easy to play because you just take your minor pentatonic scale and add this extra note in 2 octaves. And again, if you watch the other videos, you either try to incorporate some of the diatonic notes, like if you're using your A minor pentatonic, you're probably playing in A minor. That has all of those chords and probably some that I forgot, and you can add some of the notes missing in there into your minor pentatonic scale, like if you're in A minor, it's possible that you'll play an F major chord. And since you're still in the key of A minor, you should still be able to use your minor pentatonic scale, right? But it doesn't really have an F. It has an A, C, D, E, and G. Where's the F? Well, you can add that F in there. And you do the same thing for the other chords in your song, and depending on which key you are, you'll either end up with a scale like this, or a scale like this, or even if you're feeling fancy, probably a scale like this. Again, if I seem like I'm rushing any of this sort of stuff, again, you can check out the videos in the comment section right there. But after all of this, you may start incorporating, like mixing your minor pentatonic scale. Again, we're in A or A flat, like however you want to think about it. A minor pentatonic, right? Well, even though it's probably not the shape I would recommend at first, you can just move it 3 frets down and you get the major pentatonic, right? And depending on the context, you can start to mix the two of them. And nothing really stops you from doing everything we've talked about so far. You can mix your minor pentatonic scale with your blues scale, with some of your diatonic notes, and even mix it in with your major pentatonic scale. And again, you can even try to mix in some of those more weirder symmetrical scales like diminished and augmented scales. And And those of you who will be probably paying attention may be thinking to yourselves, well, but then what happens to the minor pentatonic scale? I'm pretty much playing every note. And that's kind of what this video is about. You know, in Dragon Ball when Freezer was like, this isn't even my final form, this was probably a huge intro, but all of this brought us to the final form of the minor pentatonic scale. Again, you should probably pay some close attention because this is some serious stuff. Let's do it in A again. This is the final form of our minor pentatonic scale. I know this all might be sounding a little bit weird, but it has a purpose and I'll explain it. But before you get to it, I just want to say, please subscribe to my channel. You're probably aware that YouTube acts a little bit weird. Even if you subscribe to the channel, those channel's videos may really not show up in your subscription box. And even if you ring the little notification bell thingy below, you still really may not be notified of that channel's content. So if you want to stay tuned to my videos, not only do I suggest subscribing and turning on all the notifications, but also follow me on social media. Not only do I post some exclusive stuff that I can provide solos and jamming over backing tracks, and generally wherever I'm up to at the moment, but I always post about my videos. Links for the usual suspects will be below, but in general at Guitar. And since you're down there, please consider leaving a like and share this video on social media, I'd highly appreciate it. But getting back to the video itself, even though I just sort of explained to you guys how our minor pentatonic scale evolves to be the chromatic scale, again the chromatic scale is the scale that has every single note. Sometimes students and other guitar players are like, wait, but I don't really play it like that. Who would even play? That's more like an exercise than a lick and something melodic. Well, of course it's like an exercise if you play it like that, even though it can sound cool to add some straight chromatic stuff during your licks, like... But again, that's not really what we're going to talk about today. This is what I usually show my students and other guitar players when I suggest to them that they should play this sort of chromatic stuff. The first thing I suggest is to not play it in this position, because again, as we talked about before, the cool thing about the minor pentatonic scale is that we can bar stuff in the 5th fret, in this case in the 5th fret because we're in A, but we can bar stuff with the 1st finger. It makes it easy because we don't really have to move stuff around. If we start on the E string, you can start on A and go to the C note. All these notes are easy to play in your minor pentatonic position. It's sort of like filling the blank spaces, right? And you can even go a fret above for that C sharp if you want to mix major and minor stuff. And that can sort of take you to the next position, but again, let's not rush things. And the same thing on the A string, you can start on the 5th fret, that D note, and go to the F. Again, part of this you already do in your blues scale. You're just adding this note, the F. And you can even add the F sharp. Again, it's pretty much the same concept we did before. You can go for that F sharp right there. And I think it can be pretty obvious that you're going to do the same thing on the 3rd string. If you can go to the E. Again, you already do part of this. Notes of the blues scale, right? You're just adding that C sharp right there. And again, if you already mix your minor pentatonic scale with your major pentatonic scale, you'll probably do this a lot. Or even if you're into blues and country and stuff like that. Again, the same thing on the B string. If you've ever played over a minor blues, like... you may have played your minor pentatonic scale. Then landed on that F, which is a 3rd D minor. And now in this case, going for that G sharp might sound a little bit weird on the context of A minor pentatonic because the G sharp and the A many times aren't the notes that fit in well together, right? But again, if you've played over a blues, whether a minor blues or a regular blues, there's a time for the 5 chord, right? Which is many times an E major or probably an E7. There's that E7 chord, or even in the blues again. that G sharp is a note of the E chord. So when you're going for that E chord, again using the context of a minor blues, you can definitely land on that G sharp. And even that other stinkier note, again because we're in A, if you were to land on an A sharp or B flat, it probably wouldn't be the note for every situation, right? But unless you haven't really learned many songs, or you've been living under a rock for the past few years, you've probably heard or played or even played over a chord progression like... Even though that's technically in D minor because we have an A minor chord, we can definitely use an A minor pentatonic scale to play over that chord progression. Again, we need to focus on the chord tones and stuff like that, but the point is there are songs when you play over a chord progression with an A minor and a B flat major. So landing on that B flat, even though it may sound a little bit rough around the edges when you play it along an A, it has its purpose. Until now, because I mentioned that the minor pentatonic is a scale that's pretty comfortable because we can have our first finger barring one fret, you can definitely play around your minor pentatonic scale and not just go up, but go down. As well. So until now we had this part to our minor pentatonic scale. Which seemed to work, but we can also add notes below it. Again, you've probably played in this position, again in A minor pentatonic, where you've gone below your first position. And right here you have your G and your C, right? Notes of the minor pentatonic scale. If you're playing on your regular position, let's say that you go to your E major, like A minor, E major. You can land on that G sharp, right below the root, to outline the E major chord. And of course you can get inventive and go even lower. The same thing in the string below. Here's your D, right, from your minor pentatonic scale. If you go just below D, you have a C sharp, which is again the major third of A, so you can mix it in with your minor pentatonic scale, again mixing minor and major. And that might sound a little bit repetitive, but it's the same thing in all of the other strings. Again, it was a little bit all over the place, but you probably get the point, right? I know it may sound a little bit weird, again, for those who've watched the previous videos, and for those who are just watching this video to tell you, okay, if you've watched the other videos, everything we've been working on and slowly adding scales here and there, it was just to get to this scale. And not only you who haven't watched the other videos, or you who have watched the other videos, who may be thinking, well, but why didn't we just learn the chromatic scale in the first place? Well, it's because, in my opinion, it works better to first gather all the pieces of the puzzle and then start to put them in instead of grabbing all the pieces, throwing them into the table, and then just trying to see what stuff works and which stuff doesn't. And I told you in the beginning that this position isn't really that comfortable to play bluesy and rock licks with it, and the same thing with this one. And depending on which notes you like to land on the most, again, it depends on what sort of sound you're looking for and what you're playing over, you may find some positions that are more comfortable than others. But for me personally, this is probably the position I use the most. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, doing things like this, where you take something you're comfortable with, like the minor pentatonic scale, and try to add stuff to it, still doing it melodically. Again, we just don't want to add all the notes to your minor pentatonic scale doing that chromatic exercise thingy. We still want to try to make it sound pleasing to the ears, right? But by doing it like this, again, don't forget that thing I mentioned to you. When you do things like this, you can not only sort of upgrade your minor pentatonic scale, you're now suddenly playing outside of the boxes, because, well, you don't really have boxes anymore. And even if you say, oh well, but I learned everything you're talking about and I'm still playing all of the same licks. Well, that may be true, but you're not really stuck in one position. You'll mostly be comfortable around any position, because you can relate that position to your minor pentatonic scale. Like if I suddenly played something like... I'm not really completely sure what I played there, but I remember I started with this, which is basically an augmented arpeggio, but I added this little chromatic part. And then I went into some major pentatonic stuff. Then I mix it in with my minor pentatonic scale, with some diatonic notes. Then I think I did something shredded like... Again, those are just scale shapes, in this case using notes of your A natural minor scale. And then the same thing when I played some arpeggios like... which is just an A minor arpeggio. And then I'm not sure if I played maybe an A diminished arpeggio of some sort, or maybe an A minor sharp 11, or even a B diminished. I don't really remember. But again, it's either something diatonic or something that's a little bit chromatic. Just think about it as your blues scale. And then I think I did another A minor 7 arpeggio, and then after it I played an F sharp minor 7 arpeggio. And an F sharp minor 7 arpeggio, it's pretty much like an A major arpeggio, but adding a sixth. So again, even though I played it in an arpeggio fashion instead of in a bluesy lick fashion, it's still mixing your minor pentatonic scale with your major pentatonic scale. Again, like I mentioned in the beginning, this is sort of the final form of the minor pentatonic scale, even though it's connected to the 3 notes per string method and to the intervals method and to the cage system method and stuff like that. It's definitely something that I think can be really beneficial to you. But yeah, I don't know, you guys tell me what you think. This video was a little bit different than usual. Again, it's sort of the end, but not really the end of a series. I'll definitely talk about this more, because the possibilities are endless with these sorts of things. But I still think that if you've watched the other videos and you watch this one in the end, I really do think it can sum up everything we've talked about till now. But yeah, leave me a comment in the comment section below telling me if you agree, if you did not agree, if there was something I missed, something I should have said. Also, if you have any suggestions for videos, I have this dedicated series called The 8, You Ask I Teach. I know, pretty boring, generic, and self-explanatory title, but as you can probably guess, and as the name implies, in that series I pretty much teach anything you guys leave in the comment section below, at least guitar and or music related of course. So if you have something you want me to talk about, just leave it in the comment section below with the hashtag #Yate. And since we're talking about some of my other videos, not only do I do guitar lessons like this, where I usually talk about soloing and improvising and tips and tricks, or some other times I take a look at a specific lick that I either think is interesting, or the lick itself is a little bit different from what whoever played the lick usually plays, and I transcribe it and break it down so that you guys can learn it. or other times I do this series called Bass Tricks for Guitar, because for those who don't really know, I actually started out as a bass player and gigged around for a couple of years before I eventually moved on to guitar. So when I came to guitar playing, I guess I brought some things from my bass playing that maybe some of you who didn't really start out on bass either don't think about it consciously or don't think about it at all. So I guess it's pretty self-explanatory. Again, if you didn't really start out on bass, check out that series, there's probably something you can learn from it. And again, not only do I do guitar lessons, but I also do lessons where I talk about theory and explain it so that you guys can learn it and use it by yourselves and really not be afraid of it. But I also do videos about composing and songwriting, again, sometimes tips and tricks and stuff like that. But I also have the series where I'm writing a song with you guys and sharing my process. I'll leave the playlist for those videos in the card section right there, and in the annotations of the end screen, which will be on just a couple of seconds, so please stay tuned. But again, I'd highly appreciate if you guys could go check them out. But yeah, I guess that's it. Again, thank you so very much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and on all the notifications. Follow me on social media, and if you can, share this video on social media, I'd highly appreciate it. Again, if you can, check out some of my back catalog, and actually, if you actually try to do any of this sort of stuff, please post yourself playing it on Instagram, and then DM it to me or tag me on it. I really like to see and share what you guys can come up with. But yeah, again, thank you so very much for watching. Cheers!